And now I'm excited to kick off today's event, Fulfilling Your Career Demands Purpose, How to Find Your Why, sponsored by Henkel. We're thrilled to be joined by our panelists from Henkel for a discussion about an inside look at the company's entrepreneurial spirit and how employees are making a real difference. Thank you so much, Rochelle, Carolina, and Beth, for joining us today. I'd love to get this conversation started by asking you guys to introduce yourself, tell us a little about your background, career journey, any accomplishments that you're proud of, and how you got your role today at Henkel. Beth, I can start with you first.
Sure thing. I'd love to kick it off. So thank you so much for having us here today. It's really exciting opportunity for us to tell you guys, give you guys a little insider peek. I see plenty of Henkel people have joined us, but for those who aren't part of Henkel, I think it's fun to tell what's on the other side, what's going on over here. So my name is Beth Schlenger. I am currently head of marketing for North America and our adhesives division. So adhesives, consumer, and manufacturing. So largely our industrial adhesives selling into the manufacturing and maintenance processes of industrial facilities all over the world. I started my career with Henkel in 2007. I worked prior for a competitor for 5 years and then made the jump over to Henkel in a category management role, and then have moved my way kind of through category management and then into sales, key account management, and then now in marketing. So I made the jump over to marketing, which is what I went to school for and truly what my passion is. I always had kind of this creative itch that never really got scratched, but now I have the opportunity to do so. I work out of our Rocky Hill, Connecticut office, and really have enjoyed, I think something that I'm really proud of is doing, like really bringing that entrepreneurial spirit to life within our adhesives division. So we work here at Rocky Hill in the home of Loctite, and there's so much legacy knowledge relative to the brand of Loctite, and really proud of bringing new ideas, so new distributor platforms or new ways of thinking, social media, TikTok, so leveraging a lot of these new things with our customers and making an impact. So when people say, oh, that'll never work, and it's like, I don't know, let's give it a try. So bringing that new spirit to the brand, new spirit to the team and the office and our team out in the field. So really making an impact that way.
That's awesome. Carolina, how about you?
Yes, well, thank you so much to all the team, I think, for giving us the opportunity to be here. Thank you to everyone that is joined today to hear our stories. We are really empowered to do so. We hope that they serve as inspiration. Also, like Beth, I see a lot of like Henkel people very excited about that. So, well, first of all, my name is Carolina Betancourt. I work out of the beauty, laundry, and home care side of Henkel on the consumer goods out of Stamford, Connecticut. My current role is the senior manager for the Henkel Experience Center for North America. I've been on Henkel for about 5.5 years already, but it's interesting. Definitely my background, I think, has been quite different. I would say my career path, quite untraditional for a CPG industry background. I have a bachelor's degree in international relations, which I acquired in Venezuela, where I'm originally from. I've been in the US for 22 years already. But I started my career in that field. I just wanted to change the world. So I went into I was part of the foreign service, doing international trade negotiations for about 5 years. And after that, I decided just to make a change, make a move. And I moved into more sales. I wanted to explore sales and marketing. So moved also to the US, and since then I opened 2 companies. I was part of a startup also in the fashion industry. So, but that allows me to gain experience and hands-on on entrepreneurship, sales, and marketing. After that, I jumped into a nonprofit. I worked for a college doing international business development for that. Then I moved to work also in the nonprofit world for a fashion fair trade nonprofit organization. It sounds very interesting, out of New York City. And that was, I think, the mission of that place was to provide education and opportunities just to live out of poverty, women and indigenous women from Guatemala. Very fulfillment, great experience, but also on that, I gain additional experience doing sales, doing marketing, doing product development, very entrepreneurial, wearing different hats at the same time. That was the nature of the business. And after that, I entered into the actual CPG world. I was at a company for 7 years doing private brand development. That was a global company based out of Stamford, Connecticut, where I currently work as well. And that, I think, gave me that. I went similar to Beth. I think went into category management, category solutions, also doing some business development at a global scale. So I continue adding, even though it seemed at that time that I was a little bit of all over the place. And after 7 years, that's how I landed at Henkel. First, also in the category management, category development roles, which I did that. I joined in 2016. Then I moved to sales strategy, so gain additional skills. And that after that, I ended up in the current role where I'm today. So 3 roles at Henkel in 5 years. Seems quite a lot, but very exciting since that has given me really the opportunity, especially the role today, to bring all the experience, all the skills back into the same place. So right now it's when I look back and I said, okay, everything was for a reason, even though it seems that I was gaining experience here and there that was completely unrelated. As I mentioned, I come from Venezuela. I'm married. I have 3 beautiful kids, not that young anymore. So I'm going to date myself. I have 2 girls and a boy, 25, 22, and 20. So I'm a proud mom as well, working mom. And I think when I think about a proud moment, definitely I think the job that I have today, because it's very entrepreneurial and I have the opportunity just to bring everything, my expertise into the same place. But I'm being a mom. But in addition to that, I would say I would be remiss if I wouldn't say that speaking here today, it's something that I'm very proud of, because I think when you talk about your purpose, that is something that is very personal. And when it becomes very personal, it can be very scary, especially sharing that with a large group of people. So thank you for the opportunity. Very excited and very proud to be here with you today.
Oh, that's amazing. We're so thankful to have you all here as well. Rochelle, I'd love for you to introduce yourself also.
Yeah, well, I'm so impressed to hear about everyone else's background. Henkel was my first, I would say, real job out of college. My background is a bit technical. I grew up in the young engineering sciences. As a kid, I participated in the science fair. I did Odyssey of the Mind in 1st grade, and just really had a passion for science. In college, I went to Spelman College, which is a HBCU in Atlanta, Georgia. And I majored in chemical physics. And during the summers, I interned at a few different national laboratories, the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, the United States Postal Inspection Service, the year that there was anthrax, which was like crazy, as well as the Lawrence Livermore National Lab in California. And as well as the California Coastal Inspection Service, which was then called the Minerals Management Service. But anyways, those technical internships brought me to California. And while waiting for my lab position to open up, I got a call from a headhunter to come to Henkel Corporation. And fresh out of school, they were offering me more than a national lab was at the time. And so I took it. And this position, I've been here for 15 years. I'm working in different capacities in the job. I started as an entry-level lab technician, grew as a chemist, and then matriculated as a senior developmental chemist, managing the analytical and mechanical testing labs. So that's a bit about my background. I also dabble in finance. I did a post-baccalaureate at UC Berkeley in investment management, as well as a MFA in financial engineering. So, And currently I work as an innovation project manager, recently transitioned from a senior chemist to give me some of that role diversification that Carolina was mentioning earlier.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. Do you have an accomplishment that you would love to share that you're proud of?
I would say there's so many, I think, that I am really proud of. I try to take the small wins. If I would say some of my more recent accomplishments was purchasing what I would say is our forever home with my husband and our 2 children. So we weren't in the market to buy a house at all, but the pandemic then made us realize that we needed more space. And it just turned out to be a great timing. And my husband bought a table off the internet from an estate sale, and we ended up buying the house to go with the table. So
That's fantastic. Yes, making a home is always a huge accomplishment, I feel. I would love to know what initially attracted you all to a career at Henkel and how long you've been with the company. So Carolina, if you would like to go first.
Okay, well, as I mentioned before, I've been at Henkel for over 5 years, 3 different roles. And at that time, back in 2016, just to be honest, I was not looking for a job. Similar to where Rochelle, she was not looking for a home. I was not looking for a job. And I was approached with a very interesting opportunity. But really, when I started researching Henkel, researching the company, what it entails, the culture, I felt that it was the right fit that I really needed just to make the move. So basically, looking back, the people, it was one of the first things that really caught my attention. I think from the first interview that I had until the day that I set foot in the door as an employee, I think I was blown away. Really, it's a people company. At the same time, it's a company that is very entrepreneurial. As Rochelle and Beth mentioned before, that I think attracted me to me a lot. It's a company that is thriving for success, just to create new things. It's a purpose-driven company, and that to me, it's something that is core, because I have to feel, I need to be aligned with what I do and with the company that I work for. That's some of the things that really, I would say, brought me to Henkel and maybe realized that, yes, I made the right decision. Very human company too.
Beth, I'd love your input also.
Sure. Very similarly, I think it's the collaborative culture and the people. I think I really have never come across a situation where somebody wasn't willing to help, or at least point somebody in the right direction. The people really make it. I've never felt like Henkel is a job. I've always loved Henkel, loved coming to work every day. And I always give that caveat as like, I've never had a situation where I'm like, oh, I hate this. I don't want to do this. You know, some people hate their jobs. They look at it as a 9 to 5. But the people that I work with every day and get to interact with truly become family. And, you know, they're like your work family, and you can rely on them. And I think I saw that from day one with the way that people interact with each other, the way that people rely on each other and pick each other's brains, and generally never to, like, you know, there's never, people are competitive for sure, but it's always for the greater good of Henkel. I feel like it's not a culture of like stepping on people to get ahead. It's generally to be collaborative for the greater good of our customers and the company. So really it's the culture and the people that made me jump and have made me stay for 14 years.
Yeah. What would you say is a typical work day for you? And would you like to share any projects that you're currently working on?
Does a typical work day exist anymore? So typical work day. God, so I also am a working mom. So getting my kids out the door so that I can actually get something done is priority number one. Like, we have become very used to meetings, which I'm excited to get back into the office and kind of get away from that a little bit, where we can have a quick hallway conversation and not have a 30-minute meeting about that. But I do time block for strategic projects, but I also time block to meet with my team and make sure that they have support and that they know the direction that they're, anticipated or expected to go in, and that they have clarity on any projects that they're working on. That's really important to me, is making sure that my team feels good, feels supported. Henkel, so working on digital transformation, specific projects, but also things like customer experience. So how can we leverage tools and data that we have to drive analytics processes to help us get closer to our customers, to help give our customers more of what they want before they know they want it, and stay ahead of the competition that way. So there's a lot of really interesting things coming down the pike, and that's what keeps me engaged and keeps me excited about coming in every day.
Yeah, of course. It always is great to have like a constantly evolving and changing like mindset when it comes to work, and always working on new projects. We're here today to talk about finding purpose in your career. So I'd like to ask all of you, what is your why? How has understanding your purpose helped you and kept you engaged in and out of your career? Rochelle, I'd love for you to kick us off.
I hear you now. I just sent a message saying that I just got an error on my internet connection. But in terms of finding purpose, if that was the question.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, when I wake up in the morning, I do positive affirmations with my 6-year-old, and one of them is that you're crafted and designed to be here for a very specific purpose. And so, for me, I know that purpose is just making this world a bit better for the next generation and the generation after, as well as remembering those that, gave their lives to create a pathway so that I can be in the position that I am. So in terms of my purpose, it is all about making a difference, and especially with me having a technical background. I used to joke around, my sister's a lawyer and my parents are in education, about how there's no table talk for adhesive science. So there's no, how was your day? And I think the very cool thing that I got to do within my career is to really pick projects that really, fit within my personal goals. I am the president of an employee resource group, the Aerospace Cultural Alliance, where it's a multicultural ERG where we address the pulse of the site. So being able to really pick passion projects has also really helped.
Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely makes a difference. Carolina, I would love for you to tell me your why.
My why? Well, to me, it's more about being, I think it has different dimensions, right? One, I think is personal, and the other one is just around my family and my work environment. So to me, it's about being a better version of myself. Regardless, I think not comparing to anyone. I think it's just every day I make the commitment, like the affirmations that Rochelle mentioned. It's about, okay, what I'm going to do today, what I'm going to impact. It's about making a change. I do that, and I think on a personal level, to me, it's about mindfulness. It's about being aware, being present in the moment, and that's what I instill also in our kids. But then also, as part of that, making the difference in the work environment is also do things that are aligned with that purpose, being better and making an impact. For instance, I think, yes, I lead the Henkel Experience Center for laundry and beauty care. But what it means, I think, is things that they are not related. Yes, they are. They are, because I think for me, it's about making sure I am a very people's person. And to me, it's about making sure that I can instill some positivity into other people. That can help also drive the business. Sustainability as a company is a key pillar, a key initiative. So through the operations that we have here, that I have to oversee every day, or even just, I think, bringing the sustainability agenda and conversation forward to our customers that we meet here at the HEC, is also a way for us to impact that. In addition to that, which I think is that our sides to the day-to-day operations, I also I lead one of the ERGs. It's about it's for Hispanics and Latinos, and it's about creating a sense of belonging, but also creating an impact, because we are also educating our own company, our own employees, to understand that there's a Hispanic consumer with a purchasing power. And as a company, we can also cater to those customers and help drive the business. So there are different dimensions that I see that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Beth, I would also love for your input as well.
Sure. So I think mine crosses over both personal and professional. And I think number one, first and foremost, it's creating a culture of authenticity. I think on the home side, it's really teaching my kids to be who they are no matter what. Is you were here to be who you are and nobody else. So stay true to who you are. And I think from a professional standpoint, it's kind of the same message. Is we're all different. We all have different thoughts. And that's what makes Henkel awesome, is we have 50,000 employees all over the world that think differently and have different opinions. And so creating that culture where people feel comfortable to stay true to who they are and to be who they are, because I think that ultimately guides people into success, right? So where people come in and feel comfortable being who they are and standing up and being like, hey, I have a different idea, or I think differently about that, really leads into the second piece, and that's empowering people to succeed. That's really what I love to do, is watching people grow into a role and helping them develop along the way, and giving them the tools, giving them the skill sets, and empowering them to kind of take on their own career path, or develop, into whoever they were meant to be.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. We've heard from our community that one of the many unanticipated aspects of COVID is that people are now really reflecting on what matters most to them and what they want to do with their lives. Maybe they've lost their jobs, or figuring out what other type of work they might enjoy more. Or maybe they've been working more than ever and are now considering whether they want to stay at their job or if they want to switch and make a change. What advice do you guys have for women who are in this position, assessing their professional purpose and trying to find their why? Beth, I'd love for you to go.
Sure. I would say first and foremost, be honest with yourself. And so I think you got to really dig down deep and say, what do I truly want? What can I live with? What is just a general annoyance. Like, I hate working from home. So it's like, but that's not going to last forever. So, okay, and we do what we can. But then I would say, I call it your hype team. Find your hype team. And that's really like your people that you can go to and have an honest conversation. And they can either smack you out of it and be like, you're being crazy, or you're overreacting, or they can be like, you know what, go get them, that sounds amazing. And so I think surrounding yourself with people that can be honest with you, and leveraging that network to do really what makes you happy, would be my advice.
Yeah, that's amazing. Having a support system is crucial, I feel like, in making any type of decisions like this, especially during the pandemic when everything's so kind of up in the air and there's so many decisions to make. Carolina, do you have any input?
Yes, I think one of them is that don't be too hard on yourself. Because sometimes we want to make decisions right away. We are really frustrated, especially I think these 18, 19 months have been tough for everyone. But also on the hindsight, I would say the pandemic also has allowed us to put things into perspective. And yes, many of us, I think, we're working from home, are tired. It's hard to balance and create that boundary between home and work, but don't be too tough on yourself. I think this is going away eventually. Also, another piece of advice that also helped me a lot in this reassessing stage, because also we sometimes, probably many of you, I would say all of you have a purpose, but probably you are either reassessing or simply have the calling just to find a new one. So just to think of three things. And that's a personal work. The first one is think about what inspires you. What brings you joy? And the third one, what are your talents? I think when you can answer those questions, I'm pretty sure you already have the answers, but just think about those. And I'm pretty sure that is going to help you bring to your purpose or the next step in your life. It can be, I think, career, of course, because career is a good part of, I think, our lives, work-wise. But that really helps make a difference. I think to me, it has been very valuable. During the pandemic, I went through that reassessment process. And when thinking about those three things, really helped me a lot.
Yeah, that's great advice. How has the pandemic affected your work?
Oh, okay. That's an interesting question. Definitely, probably like many of us. So that I work at an experience center, which is basically the facing to our customers. With customers, I mean is the retailers that we work with. So basically, it's primarily dealing with people, it's relationship driven, it's face-to-face interactions. So imagine when the pandemic hit, I think we have to not only, well, the office is closed temporarily, we have to shut down the HEC, the Experience Center. And at that time, it was challenging. Yeah, we were working from home, like we are still working from home. However, we thought that we needed to reassess, right? The purpose of the HEC, but also it helped me reassess myself. The beauty of all that process is that it allowed me to reinvent my work. So thanks to Henkel, I think, for being an entrepreneurial and very supportive company, and reinvent myself. So basically, long story short, I became very creative. I pulled that creativity side that I didn't know that I had, repurposed the space, and what we did, we converted this into also a broadcasting studio, just as an example of many of the things that we are doing. We made the space a content factory. So there are many things that we have been doing that I think it was part of that reassessing. Sometimes I have to go to the office, other times I work from home. Yeah. But I think it's part of trying just to find that balance. It's scary at first, because I think you don't know if people are going to say you're crazy. Mm-hmm. And I feel very fortunately that was not the case. We were received with open arms when we brought this idea forward.
Yeah. Beth, I guess in terms of marketing, how has the pandemic affected you?
It's really affected us. I think we had a really tight collaborative team prior to, and we all largely worked out of the office, and it was very much a culture of bouncing things off of each other. And then now all of a sudden that came to a screeching halt, where now it feels like you have to set up a Teams meeting in order to touch base with somebody. Time management has become increasingly more important. As our schedules have become jam-packed with meetings, I think ensuring that we're prioritizing, ensuring that we're working on the right things and we're collaborating with the right teams to get things done efficiently and effectively is super important as well. I would say one of the really good things that came out of it, though, was it shrunk the world. It seemed to shrink the world, right? So we always work with a global team and we interacted with a global team, but now I would say that's accelerated and improved tenfold, because we were all kind of here in the office and it was like, oh, the North America team, like, we're just going to do our thing. Now, because everybody's on Zoom, it doesn't matter if you're in North America or you're in Asia Pacific or Western Europe, or it's kind of leveled that playing field, which I love. And so I would say the collaboration between the regions has improved significantly, which is awesome, because I think it's driven so much efficiency. From a marketing standpoint, you talk about content creation and you talk about success sharing, like, hey, what's working? Because largely we're all activating on similar type campaigns. And so we don't have these huge teams just sitting around developing content.
Okay, that's great. That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you started off with a small team and then it kind of expanded globally and everybody's working super well together, which is fantastic. We've heard a bit about the work you all are doing at Henkel and the incredible impacts you're making, but there are over 53,000 employees worldwide working on Henkel projects and technologies, which is insane. Could you share with us some other examples of purposeful work that the other teams at Henkel are involved in?
Okay. Yes. So one of the things besides those incredible innovation and technology that the 53,000 employees at Henkel work with, part of our purpose, and if you hear about that, it says, or it reads, pioneers at heart for the good of generations. So it means that the purpose really is embedded in our DNA. And with that also, it's also embedded in each one of the employees. So each one of us, in addition to our day-to-day jobs, are empowered to make a difference in society, make a difference at work, at home, in their generations. Some of the many examples, right, just to cite here today. One is Researchers World, which is an educational initiative to introduce children through the world of science. And that's a global initiative. We have recently one here in Stanford. There were other ones in Europe and throughout the company. And people really are empowered just to do that. And the kids are really excited because they do that, I think, with real scientists. So that's one of the great things. Another one is the Sustainability Ambassador program that we have. With that, over, I think I would say in the last 9 years, more than 50,000 Henkel employees have been trained as sustainable ambassadors. So it's a twofold. One is just to teach and empower and encourage kids in schools. So they go to the schools just to teach kids about sustainable practices. So it's about forming the next generations. That's very powerful. We have been doing that with great success, and the kids love it when we do it. In addition to that, our ambassadors also are encouraged to do or have sustainable practices at the office. So that those are some of the things that we do. In addition to that, we have, and Rochelle and Beth mentioned that before, we have, I think, DEI, like diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, like ERGs. ERGs is really at the core of what we have. There are, I think, at least 5 or more, and correct me, Beth or Rochelle, about like just women and women empowerment, women in science. There are other initiatives as well. I am in the one that is for Hispanic and Latin. So there are many veterans, African Americans. So there are countless opportunities. So, and they are growing. Just this year, I think just in North America, I believe like at least 3 or 4 additional ones were created, as well as globally. So many opportunities just to make a change.
Yeah, that's amazing. It sounds like you guys are truly making impacts in like your communities and around the world. I would love for you to describe the culture at Henkel.
Entrepreneurship, fostering leadership, celebrating diversity, and empowering our employees to make a difference on a broader scale. I think those are some of the attributes that help define the culture. I think in 2020, when the whole social injustice situation happened worldwide, it was the VP of operations at our location that partnered with a few employees and said, let's do 8 minutes and 8 seconds moment of silence to kind of honor and bring attention to the whole George Floyd situation. It was a time for us to all have some of these fierce conversations, which is a Henkel book that we were all encouraged to read, to kind of address some of these harder subjects that really impact who we are as individuals. And I think that was just one of the many instances that, really kind of speaks to this very inclusive and supportive culture. I was just saying that teamwork, that overall environment where we have each other's backs no matter what, is kind of like what kind of brings us all together as a company.
Yeah. Carolina, I would love you to piggyback off of that.
Well, basically, and I think I concur with everything that Rochelle said. I think nothing different than when I see and I feel about us, our company, and especially something that I would say is about that collaboration piece, especially during the pandemic. We have seen that, and that's a big part of our culture. I remember throughout last year and even this year, we have been working, and that's true, probably more hours than ever. Because I think it's the flexibility. We are remote. We can have, I think, a conversation with Asia, with Europe, with the West Coast, and that makes us work more. However, our bosses, I think one of the directors and VPs, I think, in several occasions have been saying, yes, it's important. We have deliverables. The business needs to go on. However, you come first to each one, I think, of the people on the team. And we are a team. We have each other's back. If you need to take a break and go out for a walk in the middle of the day, please do so, because I think your well-being and your mental health, it's paramount, is very key. So, and I think that message really stuck with me and made me even feel even prouder of being at a company like Henkel at this time.
Yeah, an emphasis on just mental health and ensuring that everybody's in a great headspace is crucial to just having a productive and like happy work environment. Are there any benefits that you guys have taken advantage of personally at Henkel?
Yeah, for me, I was on a call with some HR professionals, and I told them that there may be some interruptions due to my then 3 and 5-year-old that were home during a pandemic. And I said that I have lined up 4 iPads to block them from my office, but they may not be interested in any of them at the time. And they took the first 5 minutes of the call to acquaint me to a benefit program called like the Care Assistance Program through Bright Futures, and really got our children on a schedule while we adjusted to working from home. So that by far was the best benefit that I've ever taken advantage of from Henkel Corporation.
Yeah, I bet. That's amazing. Beth, do you have anything to add?
Sure. So, I mean, I think just like if you just take a look at our basic health benefits, what I say basic, I've worked at other companies, and it's one of those things that when you're younger and you don't really pay attention to, you're healthy, you're like, whatever, well, my world got turned upside down a couple of years ago when my daughter got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so all of a sudden it was like, whoa, I need to really start paying attention to this. And now, I have a network within that group, of other moms and parents that have kids. And I realized how great our benefits are. And I feel so lucky to be able to take advantage of them, because, man, it's crazy when you start, taking a look at the costs and the implications of what people need to pay out of pocket at other places. When you have these long-term diseases or ailments within your family. So that's one thing I always tell young people is like, you guys might not recognize it now, but your life can get flipped upside down in the blink of an eye. And those are really things that you should pay attention to and should value. Sometimes it's also one of those things that, people are very focused on what your salary is, but I always really try and make it apparent when I'm looking to hire people as far as what our total benefits package is and how valuable that is, because you might not need it now, but it's definitely something that you may need in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other things that I've always taken advantage of. We have things like employee discount programs and partners with a lot of our customers out there. I've bought appliances for my house at, an extremely discounted rate, things like that. We have partnerships with car manufacturers and things like that. So it's kind of like off the cuff, but super valuable just from your day-to-day life. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Definitely having a good benefits plan is like a huge draw for companies when they're trying to hire anybody. I would love to know how you guys personally find the balance between work and home and family, especially in like a hybrid environment and remote working environment.
I guess I can start. I mean, it's definitely a hard thing to do. However, I think like Carolina was mentioning, there's a lot of leadership support for us to have balance. Like we've experienced unprecedented supply chain issues in the world right now, and that has definitely affected our industry like it has everyone else. And in my personal brand, my goal is to do the best work no matter what. Like that's a part of my personal brand. And so to do the work that was required in this environment meant I was working 12 to 16 hours a day for the sake of my professional brand. And I got a call from the VP of Innovation as well as the head of innovation saying, Rochelle, please stop working 16 hours a day. You're green at 9 p.m., you're green at 6 a.m., just stop working. And I was like, okay, whatever, but you think my work is amazing. And then he was like, there's a time for awesome and there's a time for skeletal. So let's do the bare minimum. You're still amazing. Your brand is safe. Let's just think about the long game. So just having that type of leadership support for me to do whatever it takes, and then checking up and following up that I'm not working more than 10 hours a day. They also encouraged me to join this mindfulness group that meets every Wednesday where we do meditations for 30 minutes, like Carolina was mentioning about taking walks and scheduling 15-minute walks in your workday, as well as if anyone's familiar with Insight Timer, which is like the alternative to Calm app. There's a Henkel group that has like group meditations and Insight Timer where you can kind of get encouragement from your colleagues to do some of these things. I mean, it's a real thing here. It's not a tagline. It's not something to put on a flyer. It is a real, mentality that the leadership is trying to throw down because they want you here forever. They definitely care about who you are as a person.
Yeah, for sure. Carolina, I would love to hear from you also.
Yes. So, well, like Rochelle also, I think, grateful just to have that part of support system at work, because I think I went through the same experience, like my boss calling me out and say, I'm not checking if you're working or not. I'm checking that I know that you're working longer hours than you should, and that wears you out. And that I think is not good, because I think you won't be at some point, I think, a great or excelling at your job, but you won't do that at home either. So that's one thing. So what I would add to that mindfulness definitely, like Rochelle said, is part of the piece. I think it's part of myself. And mindfulness is just taking 5 minutes in the morning just to like meditate, or at least I think be in that quiet space. If I have to drive, I have a very long commute when I need to go to the office. I even use that time driving, right? Hopefully there's not too much traffic, just to like at least think through. And that really helps me a lot. Helps me be empowered at work, be better, but at the same time, when I'm at home, I can also devote time to my family. Having discipline, the discipline to be organized, the discipline to also be in the moment, I think, with your family. Organizing even your schedule is even more important than ever, because right now it's all blurry. Between home and work is so tough. So those are some of the things. I try to work out So while my kids are already out of the house, they go back, I think, when they are coming back from school, the younger one especially, but still, I think I have my husband, I think she comes also from time to time. And I put my workout very early in the morning when everyone is asleep. And that's me time. But at the same time, that helps me be more clear at work. That also is one of the things that I would advise or for everyone to think about, especially to help put that boundary and using your all support systems that you can at work, at home, rely on your teams, rely on your family. If you have kids that are already able to do some chores, even minimum, just get your plate from the table. That's something else that you are getting off your plate, but at the same time, instilling some responsibility, and not everything has to rely on you. Don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Beth, I would love to hear what career opportunities or career development opportunities can women expect at Henkel?
Sure. So I think, and I probably don't know every single one of them. I'm sure there's a ton of them out there. The ones I know, I mean, there's formal mentoring programs that you can pick up and be a part of. There's informal mentoring opportunities, which I would say are open to everybody. I do both. I have formal mentors through our mentoring program, and then I also informally mentor other people within the organization. There's a ton of training opportunities. So the training that we have, whether it's digital, in person, is pretty vast and pretty complete. I would say there's tons of opportunities for anything that you could either want to get better at, want to know more about. And then when there's not, I've never been turned down for either myself or anybody on my team to attend like an external training course or you know, specifically in my world, like digital marketing training course. So I think it's really, I always tell people, if there's something that you want, something that you're looking for, speak up and ask for it, because it's likely out there. We've started programs like People First, where we pick people on our team and really focus on a full development program. And we do this annually with everybody on our team, but really take one person at a time and really dig deep on what do they need to work on? How do we get them to the next level? How maybe would they be able to make an impact in other areas of our business or other business units? So I think those are really the things that I know of, but also I would say always encourage people, just speak up and make your desire known, because a lot of times that's half the battle. Is as a manager, sometimes you're juggling so much stuff and I can't read everybody's mind. And so I don't know that, you know, Carolina is currently running the customer experience center, but she really wants to be in HR unless she tells me. So I think it's my job, and it's very much the job of every manager. And I think we take it really seriously, people development at Henkel, and I see it as my job to help her get there. And so we'll find any development opportunity that we can collaboratively.
Yeah, 100%. I'd also just love to remind participants to send in any questions that they have in the Q&A button at the bottom. And as they're doing that, I would love to hear from you guys how Henkel has supported you personally in your career growth.
If you don't mind, I can take that one. And there's also a question that just came through in the chat, and I can kind of maybe lump the answers together. So the question from the chat was, has my personal brand changed since having kids? And I would say that yes. When I started at Henkel, I was very much so fabulous and single. I was young, and my goal was to gain as much knowledge and skills. I would read, 30 books a year, 30 plus books a year. I wanted to travel and explore and learn about as many people as I possibly can. Post children, and Henkel gave me the opportunity to do that. To respond to your question, I did a lot of travel on behalf of the company, not a ton, but a lot for a scientist. I got to visit customers. I got to learn about different aspects of the business. I got to, in one cases, go on a helicopter to offshore oil rigs to kind of see a particular application to some of our adhesives. And Henkel gave me the opportunity to kind of really learn and see how these different types of cultures use our materials, and really for me to just kind of just gather and grab as much knowledge and information as I could. Now, post children, it's all about legacy building. Like, how can I make a difference? What is the legacy that I'm going to leave for my children? How can I give them the type of, how can I create the type of character I want in them, and really be that model? And for that, it's about really pouring into the community. It's about me leading and me judging some of the, even though I was doing this post kids, I definitely wanted my children to be science fair participants. So I am a chief judge for the Intel, an Intel affiliated science and engineering fair. I'm also on a board for a couple of nonprofit organizations. Henkel's Make an Impact grant has sponsored some of these nonprofit organizations that I support or volunteer in. So it's about legacy, it's about brand building, post children, and how do you use your personal brand, or let me see if I can see that. How do you see your personal brand changing the older they get? So when I was younger, my first mentor, who I met on the train system in California called the BART, he told me that when you're young, you gain skills. When you are middle-aged, you apply your skills. When you retire, you build your legacy. And I am kind of living by that mantra. I didn't think that I would live by it so closely, even though I'm a bit a ways from retirement. But I definitely kind of live by that mantra. And however, we are in a different phase. Like, the pandemic has made hustle culture a thing of the past. We don't want to hustle. We don't want to work 16 hours a day. It's not cute. It's not good for our hair. It's not good for our skin. And we're all trying to live to we're 100. So, as I mature, as the world changes, my values change, and I revisit what I want to do on a regular basis. I meditate 30 minutes a day, no matter how busy I am, just to kind of check in with myself. And hopefully, as the world evolves, as I evolve, my personal brand and who I am will continue to change. And Henkel's a huge company, so they're willing to change with me. Everything that I want to do, from community work to social justice to tech and science and engineering fairs, Henkel has said, hey, this is great. Can we highlight this in the newsletter? Hey, here's a $10,000 budget to go and make a difference in the community. So, I mean, they've just been down for the Rochelle ride every way that they can. So.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing, Rochelle. That was awesome. Well, with it, we're almost coming to a close. I would love to ask you guys, what's one last thing you'd like to share about Henkel with our audience? Is there anything that you think most people don't know about Henkel? Or do you have any tips for someone looking to apply for a job here? Any just final thoughts to share? I would love for you guys to grab the floor.
I'll jump in. I saw somebody put a note in the chat earlier about a lot of times experience is valued, and it's really hard to kind of cross over and start a new career, or jump into a different field. There are managers out there that appreciate somebody sticking their neck out and saying, hey, you know what? I haven't done it, but I love it and I want to try it, and who value grit. I always say, like, I'll take somebody with grit and hustle over experience sometimes, just because it's like, man, they're going to do a great job and work really hard. And that means a lot. So I think being really honest about it is the way to do that. And I think, if you are applying for a job with Henkel, I always love somebody that comes in with a really authentic view of themselves and their experience. So don't, like, there's nothing worse than sitting in an interview and having somebody be somebody they're not, and you know that they're not that person. And so be realistic about what your accomplishments are, what you have and haven't done, what you want to do. And I think really understanding what the company's values are, and where they want to go and what they're looking for, and tying that into what you can bring to the table is super important. I would also say be patient. It is a large company sometimes, so we don't necessarily always move as quickly as we'd love to. But I think, you know, if you can get your foot in that door and you can really show your true authentic self, that there are a lot of people that are willing to take a chance, and bring in, you know, people from the outside to increase our thought diversity. That's really something I'm focused on right now, is like bringing in some like new different thought diversity. So I think it's super important to keep everything fresh and keep us moving in the right direction.
Yeah, 100%. Any last final thoughts from you, Carolina or Rochelle?
No, just keep in mind, and I think also what Rochelle and Beth shared before. Try just to be the best version of yourself. Be authentic, be truthful. Take this time to reassess, reevaluate. Keep in mind those 3 things that we talked before. Really, what your talents are, what you're good. I think you have a grit, right? You have that drive, and that's something that the company look for. But also, what inspires you? What makes you feel good about? And I think those things are important, because definitely at the time of an interview, if it's with Henkel or any other company, you are going to show that. And then that will show, I think, during the interview, and then I think on your day-to-day job. So Henkel is a great company, a lot of opportunities, I think, for growth, for development. We all have gone through the same. It grows with you. The company really supports that you want to drive and bring a lot of initiatives. So definitely think about it, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
Of course.
Yeah. And if anything, I would just kind of reiterate just to everyone out there, something that I kind of tell myself is that, you know, you are worthy of the precise job that you want and capable of crafting, you know, your environment and your career. So best of luck.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. This was an awesome conversation. It was incredibly beneficial and super insightful. So I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you to our audience for attending. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day.